Perfectly Normal, a podcast that brings you love, courage, and connection. And I'm your host, Michelle. I'm a life coach, artist, author, and pharmacist. I'm the founder of Elevate Life Coaching. It's a seminar and coaching company. Let's jump right into the show. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. So today's topic is you can't succeed unless you fail. True or false? Right? So what started this conversation was 2 days ago. I was speaking at one of the events, and it was a 2-day workshop for a leadership team. And during the workshop, one of the questions, because I was talking about the energy leadership, and it's for those of you who's not familiar with energy leadership, I highly recommend that you go and visit my website. There's a description about the energy leadership under my coaching service, and you can read through the energy leadership, what it's about. And energy leadership really applies to a lot of different situations. And when we talk about energy, I want you to start thinking about energy as how it influences us on a daily basis. So, you ever have that experience where you go into the room and you feel uncomfortable, you know something is off, and you kind of just sense it. You don't need anyone to say any words and do anything. You kind of just sense that environment. And so that is the idea of energy. And sometimes when people hear, oh, you're an energy leadership coach. Oh, are you one of those person who do energy healing? No, that's not what I do. So I have nothing to do with the energy healing. The energy leadership that I'm talking about here is really how we show up on an everyday basis and how we influence each other, and also, how it impacts on ourselves. So I was giving the talk, and one of the questions as I was going through the energy level, and there are basically 7 different levels of energy. And there's actually a previous episode that you can go back to that's talk about this specifically energy leadership. And I was going through the level of energy, and at level 5 is the energy that's predominantly reconciliation. So it's about we both win. It's win-win. I understand you. There is no right or wrong. When life throws you a lemon, you make lemonade. So when I talk about this, when I talk about the whole basic concept, one of the person from the audience raised their hand, and he said, well, what about those situations where, you encounter someone and that person tells you, there is no right or wrong answer. You can say, you can share anything with me. There is no right or wrong answer. And in the back of my mind, this person said, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that there is an expectation of what the answer would be. So there's an expectation from the listener what the outcome should be. So there is a right or wrong answer in that case scenario. And I said, you're absolutely right. There is perhaps an expectation from the other person. But here's the thing. I want you to take out a coin from your pocket. So he took out a coin from his pocket, and then I told him, go ahead and flip that coin. And before he flipped it, I asked the audience, like, okay, so what is it? Is it heads or tail? So everyone start taking sides. You know how we all automatically respond to when someone's flipping a coin. You want to guess which side it's going to land on. So a lot of people choose head, and some people choose tail. So he flipped the coin, and he landed on a head. And those people who bet it was head, they were cheering. They said, "Oh, I won! Great!" So my question to the audience and to him was, so you chose to the coin would land on head. Let me ask you this: where's the tail? Did it just disappear? And they were all sitting in silence, thinking about it, contemplating. And I said, exactly. So what you did was the coin has 2 sides, and you just made a choice. And you choose head, so you don't see the tail. But does that mean the tail is just disappear? No, the tail is still there. So kind of like this binary vision that we have where we see things as black or white, good or bad, success or fail, we always give it a 2 extreme. But just because you pick one side doesn't mean that the other side it doesn't exist, right? So it's not a binary world that we live in. So just because something is wrong doesn't mean that it cannot be right. And just because something is right, you have the vice versa argument. So the point is that when you start accessing a higher level of energy, when you start accessing your ability to see the world in a different lens or different filter, you begin to reconcile the binary vision. So there is no right or wrong, black or white, and there is no judgment against the side that you chose. The coin has two sides. No matter which side you chose, it's a choice. So just because you choose one side doesn't mean that the other side doesn't exist, and you can always have the option. So what it brings you is options. You can always choose how you want to perceive your reality. And with that reality, depending on how you choose, if you were to choose it differently, you have a complete different reality. So success doesn't have to equate with failure. And we've been brought up, we've been trained, our old belief thinks that in order to succeed, we must fail. What if you were to look at the word fail from a different perspective? What if it's not failing? There is no fail. You can't possibly fail. You can't possibly make a mistakes. What you can do is you can learn from that experience, you can grow from that experience, and you can draw some benefit coming out from the situation that you're in. So it all depends on how you want to see it. So what I'm going to challenge you today is actually start looking at different perspective. If you believe that success needs to equate with fail, then start looking at it from the perspective of there is no failure. You can't possibly fail. What you can do is learn. If you have that new mentality, then what would be different for you? And those of you who's listening, and you might be thinking, well, Michelle, you're really just playing with the words. I mean, you're just substituting failure with learning. That's all you're doing. Yes, you're absolutely right. But let me ask you this. What do you know about negative self-talk? Like, how often do you catch yourself using words that doesn't feel good, that doesn't sound good, and that's really bringing you down and creating that drainage, creating that block, right? So words like failure, stress, uncomfortable, anxiety, all these are negative words, and they are associated with heavy energy. So the more that you feed into your mind, the more your mind will start to believe. And this is why we all know the power of positive affirmation. And this is why there's a lot of studies and research that encourage you to do daily affirmation, because there's power behind using positive words. So, what are some of the words that you've been telling yourself? And what are some of the phrases that you've been telling yourself? And how would you be able to rephrase it, reframe it, so that it doesn't feed your subconscious mind with that negativity? What are some of the words that you use in your everyday life? I'm not good enough, perhaps. I'm not strong enough. I'm not organized enough. I'm not courageous enough. All these negative words have feelings, have emotion that comes behind it. And every time we feed on it, it's kind of like strengthen our belief. So in other words, by using a different way of saying the same thing, or using a different way of looking at things, then you allow yourself to have a different set of lens, different set of filter, different set of mindset. And what happens when you have different set of mindset? You start to see the possibility. You start to have reconciling. You start to have more calm, more peace, and more enjoyment. Ultimately, you are actually the person who's responsible for your own happiness. Yes, all agree. Great. So before I let you go, I wanted to challenge you today to keep track of all the words that you've been using, you've been telling yourself. What are some of the words that you've been using to yourself that you may not even be aware of? What are some of those words? And keep track of them. And you can always shoot me an email at michelle.quei, Kuei, @gmail.com, or you can follow me at elevatelifecoach on Instagram. And also, I'm publishing actually a judgment journal this week, and it's going to be available on Amazon. It's called Holy Shit, did I just say that? So it's a really cute, it has a really cute cover, and it all has to do with our mindset and how do we let go of our own judgment and things like, the phrase that you can't succeed unless you fail. That in itself is kind of a very judgy Juggerson type of voice. So I wanted to challenge you to start keeping track of those negativity and those negative words and see if you can come up with different approach, a different way of looking at the same situation. And perhaps if you start doing that, and become a habit, then it becomes easier every time you catch yourself in those moments where you're just putting yourself down. So check it out. It's called Holy Shit. Did I just say that? And I will see you next week. Hey, thanks for joining me this week on Perfectly Normal. Make sure to visit my website at elevatelifecoaching.org. And if you found values in this show, I appreciate a rating on iTunes and Spotify. Or you can simply tell a friend about the show. That would really help me too. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.